Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of Friggin' Nerd Reviews. Today, it's a big one, baby. We're finally talking about the very sad but very happy end of season 1 of Loki.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Joined,
oh man,
It's my boy. My side piece.
joined by the only people that I could review this with. Of course, we got Sweaty Mike and Loki's side piece herself, Britt Berkey.
yeah, buddy.
Y'all,
yeah,
how about that finale?
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. We stayed up. So Britt has stayed up for most of the episodes to watch it at 2 for us at 2 a.m. I've only stayed up for the premiere and the finale, and y'all, no joke, 2 a.m. we were shouting with joy at this finale. Luckily, not waking the baby up.
Literally had like goosebumps when it was over, which is hard to do for me. I'm pretty critical.
Pretty critical, and you kind of like know a lot of things that could be coming, and so it's tough to kind of to get you,
It's hard to get me in the feels,
right? Get you in the feels
because you can really screw up my Loki.
Oh,
so.
but they did a fine job. I got my TVA pin. I'm ready to go. Yeah. I'm super excited.
I have my Loki necklace, and Mike's got his.
Got my girl Miss Minutes with me, baby.
Favorite sassy Southern gal.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I got 3 more of these, for the whole Friggin' Nerds crew. So those are coming to New York when we see each other next.
Yeah, buddy.
So we all rock TVA. If TVA is still a thing after all this, who knows? Anything could happen. So, of course, guys, before we start off, this is all spoilers. We're going all in on this show. So if you have not seen the finale of Loki or any of the season of Loki, which what are you doing here? Go watch the show.
Why did you click on it?
And
they were expecting us to reenact the entire show.
I can do that.
We're gonna show the whole show.
Happen.
So guys, get ready. We're going super deep into the Loki season 1 finale and probably the whole season as a whole.
Yeah.
So, of course, a lot of questions we need to have answered. So, Britt, let's start. What questions should be answered here?
All right, we're going to start off light, boys.
We're starting off light. We're going to slowly go into this.
We're going to start off light. Who were the standout performances of the Loki series, and who was your favorite Loki variant?
Ooh, that's a good question. Variant-wise, I mean, everybody's answer to this is going to be Alligator Loki.
I mean, can it get any better? Did we just reach the pinnacle of Loki?
I almost bought one of those Gator shirts from New Rockstars. I really want one.
Oh yeah, with the horns.
It's like the Lacoste
it's like the little polo.
Awesome.
I want that so bad.
I think my answer, though, I think it's going to be classic Loki.
Fantastic.
I think he was my favorite. Yeah, I think he was my favorite variant. And I think he won me over with his last moments. Like him just like conjuring up that city and laughing, screaming glorious purpose. It was like pinnacle. I'm getting goosebumps just saying that again. It was like pinnacle Loki. It was so cool. So
I loved classic Loki. I don't think classic Loki is gone.
Oh,
I think we're going to see classic Loki again. He is just a phenomenal veteran actor.
Yeah.
And also if you're like real careful and you rewatch that scene, he starts to like dematerialize before Eliath even gets to him. And he's classic Loki. He's
a trickster.
He's a trickster.
Illusionist.
So I hope we'll see him again.
Mario, who was your favorite variant?
Favorite variant? Let's see. It's tough to say. A couple, like I did like, even though we didn't get as much of him as we thought we would after the trailers. President Loki was really fun.
Loki. I knew you were gonna say that because that was the other one. I'm shocked we didn't see more of him.
I know.
Yeah, so that's
I really wanted more President.
That's just the bait and switch, I guess, of like of Loki. But yeah, fantastic, and but actor wise, only show up in one damn episode. Jonathan frickin' Majors, man.
Yo,
How about him?
Oh my God. Like, I had goosebumps, and like, he's just he was so fantastic, and like everything you want, like in a, I mean, sort of villain, not really a villain, he's not, he's more of like, he's just running things, he warned us what was going down, he's not a bad guy, but he was just, what a performance, so much fun, and he's killing it. So like, if he is who we think he is, and he has all these variants coming out, I can see him being extremely versatile and playing different variants of himself, and I think it's gonna be a fun time. So those are my two big ones.
Yeah, that was a good answer for standout for sure. Jonathan Majors.
Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson was going to be who I was going to
yes.
say. Yeah,
We didn't get a wow. We got all around the wow. We got how, wow, but we didn't get a wow. He said he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But he was great. He was really great. I was super skeptical about him playing Mobius, but I could not picture now anyone else playing Mobius. I thought he was really fantastic.
And when we thought that he died in the fourth episode, like my heart sank. Like I was just shocked. I have this just outpour of love for Mobius now, and was not expecting that coming into this show.
But where was Mobius on his jet ski?
Oh, we still have not.
That should have been paid off.
That's going to be somewhere. It's
coming. Season 2, baby. Season 2.
Better be. Give that man a jet ski.
I would like to just throw in too. So you took Jonathan Majors. You're taking Owen Wilson from me. I would love to point out the actress that played Sylvie, like
Sophia DiMartino.
She was fabulous.
Yeah, she was great.
And the chemistry that she had with Tom Hiddleston was I mean, there was sparks flying off the screen. No wonder they love each other. Like you can't keep them off of each other. It was amazing
too.
Yeah.
But you can't discount Tom Hiddleston's performance in this.
Right.
He played so many roles. He's just so versatile.
Yeah, he played several different versions of himself in multiple ways, and yeah, it was.
I love me some Tom Hiddleston.
It was great. So, Mario, we're talking about Jonathan Majors. For those that have seen the finale, you got the reveal of the man behind the curtain as He Who Remains.
Right. He was actually credited as He Who Remains. And if you listen, they never actually refer to him as Kang. They give us a lot of nicknames. Like I go by a lot of names, like Conqueror.
Yeah.
But they never actually explicitly call him Kang.
Right. So who really is He Who Remains? And just the quick backstory, just real quick before we jump into this. Just to let everybody know that may not know, like who is Jonathan Majors in terms of casting news in other movies?
Right. So Jonathan Majors has already been cast as Kang the Conqueror, and he's supposed to be the big bad of Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. And a lot of critics of all of these theories said, like, there's no way that they're going to introduce us to a major MCU villain in one of these Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, you were wrong about that.
Wrong. They did it. But because they didn't call him Kang, they called him He Who Remains, which Marvel has done this before, where they like kind of combine a few different comic book characters into one, which I'm assuming is what they're doing here. But He Who Remains in the comics was the final TVA director at the end of time who creates the TVA and the Timekeepers. So that's who he is here. But I think he's also Kang. And generally, I think he's supposed to be. So in the comics, you have a whole lot of variants of Kang. And I think this one was supposed to be Immortus. He had like the flowing capes and everything like Immortus. So I think that's like kind of his like.
Well, and I know Mario, you mentioned the Council of Kang, having all the different versions of him, and it seemed like that was mentioned, lightly in his story that he was telling to Loki and Sylvie on his backstory a little bit. Like maybe there was at one point this Council of Kang that could be coming back now. I mean, like, who knows?
Yeah, it's too deep for me to get into at the moment. But so if you weren't up on current MCU news, that Jonathan Majors was already cast. We just were really doubtful that he would show up in the series. And so we were shocked.
And here he is, and his performance was just outstanding.
He was like a little bit of like Willy Wonka. He was a little bit I don't know why he reminded me so much of Sugar Nuts. What's his name? I told you right after it was over. Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin.
I was like, he's like so creepy and weird. Like the way he would like kind of like jump around and stuff. I was like, he reminds me of like Rumpelstiltskin.
He kind of had like Joker vibes too, in a way, you know, especially like Heath Ledger's Joker, where, you know, he just kind of had that like quirkiness to him a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit weird.
So, you know, we know that Jonathan Majors has been cast to play Kang the Conqueror. This technically, I guess, wasn't like Kang's reveal, sort of was in a way, I guess, for He Who Remains.
I think they're going to wait. Shouldn't be playing with toys while we're recording. I'm sorry about that. You need to edit out. I did not fart. It was,
here we go.
I've never heard it make that noise before.
Sure.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna put these up here.
I'm sorry.
I think we're gonna wait, is what you were saying.
I don't think that they're going to call him Kang until maybe Doctor Strange. I think they're going to name him as Kang in Doctor Strange.
Interesting.
Multiverse Madness.
Well, regardless, this is a at least a variant of Kang, and you know, in the comic books, his love interest is as Renslayer.
Yeah,
and
Ravonna
you know,
Renslayer.
She's the one that's, you know, kind of been running the TVA, you know, on point in the field there throughout the show. But at the very end, her last moments, she kind of like throws up a huge question mark, a couple different question marks. One of them, like, is she really a good, like, is she like going to find free will? Is she kind of like a gray character? Because she seemed pretty sus throughout the entire thing. But the bigger question is, she goes through that portal and says, I'm going to find free will to Mobius. She says that to Mobius, and then jumps through that portal. Where is she going? Like, what's going, what happened with her?
Yeah. So rewind though, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She had sent Miss Minutes off to get some files from He Who Remains, and Miss Minutes comes back and she says, here's the files that you asked for. Renslayer says, these are not the files that I asked you for. And she said, well, he thinks that these would be more useful to you. And then at the end, after she presumably reads the files, then she goes through that portal and says she's after free will. She's going to find free will. So thoughts?
I think I feel like I could see the opening of season 2. I feel like we're going to see a portal open. It's going to be her walking down a hallway, and I think that might be where we see like maybe the Council of Kang of something, or maybe Kang himself, and maybe she's reporting to him. Maybe, you know, she's being sus. You know, she's been known in the comics to be a love interest of Kang. Mm-hmm. So like, maybe, you know, she's just heading there to kind of be like, okay, let's set up shop now. What's our next move? You know, because we kind of, you know, we end the episode with seeing, you know, the statue of Kang, quote unquote Kang. So obviously he's taking over this version of the TVA. We'll get to that later. So I think that she's going to report to Kang. Mm-hmm. I think that's her finding free will. I think it's her, like, you know, maybe this is her version of free will. It's like, this needs to happen. Kang needs to take over.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it seems like she almost doesn't remember certain elements. She's in the last couple of episodes, she has that conversation with C20 or no, C20. Mm-hmm. That's the officer, C20. I thought no,
C20 was the one who got mine
16, I think.
Controlled.
Yeah, I think it's 16. Anyway,
15
numbers. Or 16. Anyway, she has that conversation where she like is showing that she really doesn't seem to know or remember at least like who's running things, and that seemed that seemed like one of the only genuine things that she's done in the show. But like I have a feeling like maybe she, had some sort of love interest with Kang, or love thing with Kang in another timeline, and he like wiped her mind or something, and she's trying to figure out where.
Because we do see her in the real world in 2018 as like, I think, a principal of a school, but her education, like her degree that was hanging on the wall, obviously her name's not Renslayer. Like, who can you imagine, like, your principal Renslayer?
Principal,
it's such a like futuristic name. So
it would be a principal in Star Wars.
But is Mobius's name in the real world
Mobius?
Does everybody kind of like get renamed?
Well, and his full name is Mobius M. Mobius. So like, I'm pretty sure that's probably not his real name.
I don't know. My sister-in-law's Brooke Brooks.
That's true.
I mean, whatever could happen. People like both of them.
So that's one of the biggest questions, though. I cannot figure out or like theorize where she would have gone. And that's mainly because they've done a fairly good job of not letting you really know what her intentions are. She was kind of like Loki in this show.
So he sent her these files, right? Which makes me think that He Who Remains, Kang, has something else up his sleeve. Like, he thought in advance, I need to get these to her, like knowing he could die. Like, Loki and Sylvie could kill him. So what was in the files? She does say that she's going to find free will. What if free will is the name of a person? What if she's literally going to find someone that like Kang sent her out to find?
Oh, interesting.
Free will.
Okay.
I mean, like, we already have weird ass names. He Who Remains. Like, I don't know that we would have thought like He Who Remains was a name.
Would be super interesting. I'm sure that this would have been caught by now, but in the captions, if that was capitalized or not, because that would totally indicate if that was a person's name. But you know what I think about whenever you say free will? Literally think of a giant whale, and she's going to Free Willy.
There was also the fourth statue that was busted up on the floor, which is supposed to, it's supposed to be like a subtle reference to the fourth like secret timekeeper that the other timekeepers banished. Maybe. I don't think it was all that subtle. Like, as soon as he walked in there, I was like, there's a fourth statue on the floor. Maybe the fourth statue is free will, and Kang has sent her off to find this dude, Free Will.
Interesting.
Maybe it's Will Smith.
Oh, maybe it's Will Smith.
Literally, I would die
riding Free Willy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we've talked a lot about Miss Minutes. Is she a psychopath? Is Miss Minutes a psychopath?
There was that moment.
She's so sweet.
There's that moment. She seemed to really enjoy giving everybody in the world that's watching the show the scariest jump scare that I've had.
Did you scream, Mario? Did you freak out?
I was like, I almost, like, we were like laying in bed watching, and I smashed my head on the headboard. And I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, oh
man, I wish we had a video.
Because they make you kind of like lean in, like, oh, what are they gonna see down this hallway? Right? It's like, hey y'all! It's like, oh shit! Oh my God, it's scary.
Imagine though, for Mike, that's what he gets all the time.
Oh yeah.
Hey y'all!
I slowly come around the corner of the hallway, and then all of a sudden, hey y'all!
Yep. I think my biggest question about Miss Minutes is Miss Minutes bigger than we think? Like, who and what is Miss Minutes?
Here's my biggest thing about Miss Minutes. It's very clear that whether Renslayer has lost her memory or not, it's very clear that she has not and does not know about this place at the end of time that Kang is at. She's trying to get information and et cetera, et cetera. The only thing or person or whatever you want to call Miss Minutes that we've seen there is Miss Minutes. Like, she has some sort of bigger impact to Kang and his plan than we know. We see Miss Minutes there in the end, at the end of time, and then we also see her coming back to Renslayer with stuff that Kang wants Renslayer to see. So I think she's a crucial role in the overall plan with Kang.
Especially with like there was a one small thing that kind of popped out to me was like when they said like, "Oh, you're the one who remains," and he kind of laughs as, "Oh, she's still calling me that."
Still call me that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so I wonder if that's like a relationship thing there. Maybe she's the love interest at the end of the day. You know, like a
Maybe it's not Renslayer.
Yeah, you know, maybe a variant of Renslayer. Who knows? It's I feel like there's something else there. I think it's more than a little mascot. I feel like it's something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's gonna like.
She's definitely sentient. I mean, like when Loki was swatting her, like she was able to react to him and jump out of the way, but she also existed like in real time. Like they went so far as to like put the noises in for her little feet hitting like
making
his
contact
keyboard
with
or
physical objects. Yeah.
there's definitely something more to her, and I don't think that they would have brought a voice actor like Tara Strong in to play that role if it was just like a couple little scenes of this cute mascot. It could have been me that did it instead.
Right.
Hey, Al.
Exact
Welcome to the TV
voice here. So I think it's definitely more to Miss Minutes that we're gonna. She's definitely returning for sure in Loki season 2. Maybe she'll pop up in something else. You know, all the other multiverses.
God, what if she pops up like another jump scare in totally in another movie?
A jump scare in the movie theater, like on that giant screen.
Oh my God. That would be terrifying.
Popcorn's gonna go flying. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm one of those people that like I hold my popcorn right in the middle, and every time there's a jump scare, I throw it every time. Nobody wants to sit by me in the movie theater because I always throw my popcorn.
All right, this is the time in the show where we are gonna buckle in. This is where questions are being asked that are too big for my tiny brain here that like to figure out. I'm trying my best to follow what type of rules they're setting up for universes and stuff in the show, but we're going to lead off our second half of the show with a ton of heavy hitting questions.
This is where you join the very, very thick nerd bubble that we exist in, that most people don't care. And if I try to like start talking to moms at the playground about this kind of shit, like that won't have anything to do with me.
So buckle in. Here comes the next question. Why do Mobius and B15 not know Loki in the final scene?
Right. Okay. So, and this is going to really tie into our next question, which is kind of about how time and universes work within MCU. Okay. So at the very end of this episode, the finale, Loki runs back. He goes and finds Mobius and B15 in the archives, and he's like, "Uh-oh, like we've really messed up," and they don't know who he is. And then we also see the Kang statue that's replaced what has been the 3 space lizard timekeeper statues. On our first watch through of this, I was like, okay, so when Sylvie broke the sacred timeline, did it reset? That was like my initial thought, is like, did it reset something? And it's been reset differently. I don't think that that's the case anymore. What I think happened was that when Sylvie was trying to get rid of Loki because she needed to finish her mission, and she pushes him through that door, I think instead that she pushed Loki into another universe, a parallel universe with its own TVA and its own sacred timeline. And I think that's why they don't know who Loki is. I don't think this has just been that the TVA's like been reset or the timeline's been reset. I think this is a completely different universe altogether. And in this one, Kang, he doesn't put up the whole farce of the timekeepers. He's just like out there, loud and proud Kang. Like I'm the
conqueror.
I'm the boy at the end. But if that's true, so that's where I started. This is where my brain started going.
This is where it starts to get like muddy.
I felt like I had a really solid grasp on what the MCU was going with for time travel. I was like, okay, I got this. I'm good. The whole series, I was like, I understand how they're doing this. But then then this episode happened. Okay. In the very beginning of this finale episode, we see sort of like where there, we hear all of like the voices from characters that we love in the MCU. We hear like real life voices like Greta Thornburg, right? Greta Thorn, it doesn't matter. And what we're seeing is kind of like the birth and death of a universe. And so when we get to the end of time, the universe kind of becomes like this black hole. That's the death of that universe. And according to the comics, when that happens, then a new universe starts up. Mm-hmm. So, but when they do that, they pan out from that universe, and there's a second universe.
There's a second universe, which that's where I start going, wait a second.
That's when I started getting really confused. And I thought I was maybe the only, like, I'm like, am I overcomplicating this? And I'm the only person in the nerdverse who doesn't understand this. I went to New Rockstar's Discord. I went to the Reddits. I'm not the only person. As soon as other people started thinking about it, they were like, oh, yeah, that doesn't make sense. So up until this point, I've assumed that all of the Loki variants that we've seen have been Lokis from different branch realities that were in the same universe, right? Okay. So my brain starts hurting. So instead, does this mean that each Loki variant, each time that there's a branch, a new universe is created? Or are there separate universes and there's another Loki there that's like Loki Prime on the sacred timeline, and there are branch variants of Lokis in that timeline as well? Or is it just that every time there's a branch, a new universe is created, which I do not think that is the case. That is not how this works. Branches in time, alternate realities are not the same thing as parallel universes. An alternate reality happens when there's some disturbance to the timeline, there's some deviation, and each universe has different realities. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think the biggest question that we're hearing is the rules behind what they're trying to do with universe versus reality versus timeline. Like there's tons of like classifications that are being given to these variants, the sacred timeline, the branches on the timeline.
Because I assumed that the sacred timeline were all the different like universes wound together to keep it nice and pretty, that he who remains was at the end of time for all the universes, and he kept the multiversal war from happening again because he kept all of those timelines wound neatly together in the sacred timeline.
But now we see that there's a whole nother bubble. There's multiple other bubbles.
So do all the universes have their own sacred timeline?
Do they all have their own TVA? Do they all have their own He Who Remains? Like there's so many, like when you start to like really dive into what that opening credit scene had in it,
like it starts
very
to break
your brain. Yeah.
Like this, but nobody really has the answers yet. There isn't a right answer. But I was like, why are we worried about the branches getting out of the safe zone? What happens? And Mike said, well, maybe when they deviate too far out of that safe zone, that's when the universes can start touching each other. That's when a multiversal war could happen. If those universes start touching each other, they start interacting with one another.
Don't touch each other. The streams have been crossed.
The streams are crossing.
Essentially where we're going.
Is that why we're trying to keep it wound up tight so that those don't happen? So the other versions of Kangs, the bad versions of Kang, can't get in and hurt this universe? But I thought that He Who Remains was like in charge of all of the universes. I have thought so long about this. I literally feel like my brain is going to explode.
And so to circle back to why Mobius and B-15 don't know Loki in that last scene, if they were all part of the same universe per se, they would have known who he was. They are the ones in charge of time. There's only one TVA from what we've known up until this episode. And now it's like, well, wait a second.
There could be multiple TVAs. Each universe could have its own TVA.
So Mario,
Have we hurt your brain?
Ton of theories going on this side. This is
what it feels like to be married to
This has been our afternoon conversation, our afternoon delight per se, for this entire day. Is Britt trying to figure out this stuff? Is your brain okay? Because mine is not.
I don't know, but you just blew my mind. So my theory with the whole thing of seeing them back at the TVA is because there were two real scenes kind of close to each other involving the TVA. We see Mobius and which one? B-15, B-20, B-52, whatever her name is.
Bingo.
You see them in the kind of main office area, seeing the big screen of all the branch timelines going, and they're kind of like, what's going on? This is crazy. And then when we have Loki come back, then they're hanging out in the archives, which I thought was weird. So my theory was that...
I didn't even catch that, Mario. Right, That's right. They were looking at the screen, and then suddenly they're in... Yeah, I didn't even catch that.
So my theory is them looking at the screen was the regular TVA that we know, and then I know they kind of said this in Endgame, you know, it's not like Back to the Future. I feel like this is like Back to the Future, where it's like when Sylvie stabs him, I feel like that changes history, you know? Biff takes over, you know? It's like it changes things. So I think that, you know, that change. I feel like there's only one TVA. It makes sense because of all the different variants of Loki that you've dealt with that we saw in this, you know, the episode before. There's so many of them. Like we thought there was like, like 4 or 5. Then you see with the manhole cover, and there's like 17 more of them.
Yeah.
So obviously there was a lot more. I feel like there's one TVA, but I feel like, having those scenes back to back, I feel like, we have the TVA that we know. It's like they know Loki right there, and then boom, when Loki comes back after it's stabbed, he probably gets in there in the room, and it's probably still normal TVA when he lands. When he gets to the end of the hall, I think it's just like that was erased because he's going down the hall, and none of the guards are stopping him. He's running by them like it's nothing. He's kind of like looking back. He's like, oh, they're not bothering me. That's weird. And still running and trying to find Mobius. And and they're in the like, why are they in the archives? Like, what are you guys doing there? You know, and that to me felt like a kind of Back to the Future thing, where like things that you remember the movie, you know, Hill Valley changes. You know, things look different, and just by small things that Marty did. And
here's the problem, though. They already established a different type of time travel in the MCU,
right?
Which is branch, which is not like butterfly effect. You can't like it's not like that.
Yeah.
But you know what though? It wasn't just that like they didn't know what Loki was talking about. They didn't recognize him. Loki, they've already said they've brought in more Loki variants than anyone else. They didn't even recognize Loki as like anything. Like if Loki was like the main variant that you've always brought in, they didn't even recognize him as like one of the other Loki variants, which is also really, really strange.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes back to what you said before with that opening Marvel sequence of all the movies that we've known to love, is maybe it's true when he was stabbed, maybe the last decade is just erased. Maybe we just don't have the MCU anymore.
Oh my.
Maybe it's gone. And that kind of brought me to a question where that I was going to come up with afterwards, do you think coming up in the future, do you think we're going to have like, you know, maybe Iron Man come back in a different way? We live in a world now where what if is happening soon. What if is even a bigger mind fuck. So, are they just making it? Because there have been what if comics in the past. I used to love these. It'd be like, what if the Thing fought Hulk? Stuff like that. So, seeing this is like a fun little thing. But I wonder if there's truth to it. I wonder if they're going to show some of these in live action. Like maybe, seeing like, Peggy, become Captain America or Captain UK, whatever you want to call her. Are we going to see something like that in one of these branch realities? Are they just showing this for fun, or are they showing it for a real reason?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing with this What If show. That came that like promoed, and it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of fun, like a spin-off, almost like you're going to have these kind of cool like scenarios, little one-off episodes that we can kind of see how this would happen. But now it's like, well, no, I think what you're saying, Mario, I think these episodes are going to follow a reality that's inside of the MCU that is now visible because all of these universes and timelines and stuff are just colliding, and all this crazy stuff has happened because of Loki. That I think the show's going to have a ton of weight to it. The What If show, I think it's going to have weight to it, where before I thought it was just going to be, a spin-off, like fun time before we got deeper into stuff going on.
But I think that all of those are different branches. They're alternate realities within the same universe.
That's like, the biggest problem.
That we have always been in Marvel 199999. And when I see that other universe, I'm like, is that Earth 616? Like I feel like all of these branches are branches within Earth 19999. But I just can't reconcile what the hell we would be doing.
I think
why would we have multiple TVAs? It like doesn't make sense.
Right.
How could you have multiple sacred timelines? Like maybe the sacred timeline. Oh God, my brain. Maybe the sacred timeline is like he's not just governing the different variations of Earth 1999. Like
he's
over all of it. Like that would make more sense, right? Like that.
It would be a lot of work for that poor man, but yeah, it would make more sense.
Well, yeah, that's why he's like going crazy.
True. Here's the thing. So I think if they didn't have the two universes at the beginning of this episode, I think we would have very easily been able to digest he's just in a branch like this makes whatever. They are lightly dipped into this. I think they're like, hey, we're gonna slightly hint at, boom, there's two universes rather than multiple realities running parallel inside of the same universe. I think more information is coming, and I think we are just deep diving into this without knowing the rules yet.
It makes my brain hurt. It's like one of those things you just can't think about for too long, or your brain will just explode. My little brain can't handle all this.
Easy answer for this question that we've been on for a while now.
I'm sorry. It's the biggest question in here.
And we may have two different theories, it sounds like, possibly on this show. He has either been placed into a different universe where possibly Lokis don't exist if they don't even know who he is, or the same universe that they are in, and they have been in, has been reset back to the future style when Kang gets killed at the end of by Sylvie, and it's changed the environment.
It wasn't how they established time, but we also don't know what happens to time at the end of time. What happens at the end of time when you break time? We don't know.
And also, if they are making rules based off of time that has been created by Kang, maybe when Kang dies, the time rules change in the MCU.
It could happen.
I will say this though, Mario, because I know that you've brought this up when we've talked about a couple other things dealing with what they're doing with the multiverses and stuff like that. What we have experienced and what we have gone through with where we're at currently in our universe of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, these characters that we've been with, I think they're still going to be the central key main characters that we're going to be following through all of phase 4. And I don't think that they're going to like change anything that's happened in our current master timeline that we've been through.
The sacred
timeline up to this point anyway. I if they go back and they start going, well, now that Kang is dead, like the main like story of, you know, Tony Stark, the Tony Stark that we've known to, you know, known and love is different now. Like I would be heartbroken if they did that. I think they're still going to have the understanding of what we've seen of Tony Stark through Endgame is scripture. It has happened, but we are now going to see, like we've seen with Loki's, variants of Tony Stark's story in different realities, not in our reality.
Okay, since our brains are already breaking,
yes,
let's get into what are the deeper themes of the show. And the first one I would say is destiny versus free will. So here's another mind breaker. Can free will exist in the multiverse? Can free will exist when they just keep pruning you? I mean, this is what like Kid Loki was so upset about, is anytime we try to get better, they just cut us back off.
I think it's a good question at this present moment with Kang or He Who Remains dead. Does that mean that free will exists again? That's
was Sylvie's act of killing him the first act of free will that we've ever seen in the entire MCU?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because he even says moments before that he has this realization and he just stops and he's like, this is it. This is as far as I've seen. I don't know what happens after this. And yeah, the next few moments are the Lokis fighting and then the death of He Who Remains. So is he telling the truth there? And is that the first act of free will? Or does that need to be said to get the Lokis to do that? And like, did he manipulate that a little bit to have that play out the way it did?
I think I like that better. That he planned that and he was lying about not knowing what came next. Because we just talked about earlier him sending those files to Renslayer and then she's off. Like, I think I like that better.
I think I just had an epiphany. No, you know what? Let's go back a little bit.
Let's do it.
Okay. You remember was this? Yeah, it must have been episode 1 when Loki asks, you know, oh, the Avengers time traveled. Why aren't they in trouble? Oh, they were supposed to do that. Who said that line?
Renslayer.
That was Renslayer, right?
Renslayer, right?
Yep.
If that's supposed to happen, all that happens, right? They go back to New York, Tony and all of them, and he goes downstairs and Hulk, so many stairs and all that crap, and knocks over the case. Loki sees it, takes the cube, takes off, and they think they're fucked, but then they go back, to the 50s or the 50s, and they do that. So if they were supposed to do that, then why is it a problem that Loki took the cube if that was kind of like they couldn't really avoid that? My thought is that was supposed to happen. Loki was supposed to grab the cube. The timekeeper was supposed to grab him. All this is supposed to go down to the point where they get in his office and they kill him, and that hatches his big plan to have this wild multiversal war happen.
Yep.
Because
wait, so you think maybe what we thought was like benevolent Kang here in this episode is really the bad Kang?
I think this is all a plan. The fact if we're thinking that Renslayer is like working with him, I feel like that's the gimmick where it's like it's all supposed to happen. And I feel like that if it was supposed to happen, and Loki not taking the cube was supposed to happen. They should have just got the cube in New York and it would have been done.
Right.
So you're saying that them going back to 50s, that still happened? Was that not supposed to happen?
Well, it's tough. It's tough because Renslayer is saying the Avengers was supposed to happen, and then Loki taking the cube, getting caught by the TVA, being brought, but then also being sent to the end of time and getting into Kang's office. Kang is then saying that was supposed to happen. And so it's
like he did say that.
Yeah.
Like this was the only path to him at the end.
So
we were assuming that that's where his information stopped because we believed him. But if there's anything that we know from Loki, this is a Loki show, it's that you never ever trust what they tell you. I know Kang's not a Loki, but that's like the whole theme of the show. And what Mario's saying totally fits with the theme of destiny versus free will.
Yes.
So far, what we've seen is there is no free will.
Right.
So why start now?
Yeah. Oh man.
At the end of the day.
And you know, we've talked about too the possibility of the Council of Kang and there being Kang Prime, right? He's like or what was his name? The Immortus. You know, if Kang the Conqueror, if this wasn't Kang the Conqueror, this was He Who Remains Immortus. If he's able to beat Kang Prime or the evil Kang, like, and be the last one standing, that doesn't make sense. Like, you would think that Kang the Conqueror would be the last one standing, and if that's the case, then yeah, all this is a farce, and literally everything that has just happened, Kang planned it to happen exactly that way. Holy smokes! Woo!
Hey guys, I'm sorry, we all forgot that we were making a video. This is just what it feels like to be friends with us. That's why you got to find your nerds.
So back to the original, like the question that sparked this topic, some other deeper themes, you know, gray areas of humanity, 100%. Like, this is a Loki show. He is like one of the most gray characters that you can have
it's our favorite kind of character.
Exactly. My favorite type of character is those gray characters. And, you know, we really hit home with all the different variants of Loki. Maybe Kang, as we're talking through this. Renslayer is falling into that. The only one that's like true, I feel like, is true good, is Mobius. Like, he's just this nice jet ski riding fella.
I just want to picture my Mobius on the back of a jet ski.
That's right.
So the thing that everybody that is in our community knows Loki is like 100% my favorite MCU character, period, because he is this gray character, and we got to see all these different versions of Loki that were like equally gray. Like, there's, I think, so often in like comic books and like the whole just superhero world, it's very black or white. You're either a good guy or you're a bad guy, and we see, like, you know, it's just like all the heroes are just like, they're all good. And we even saw with Black Widow, like, she wasn't as good as we thought she was. She made a horrible decision to kill a kid. But what we saw through Loki is him learning to love himself. He quite literally fell in love with himself, but learning to love himself and appreciate all of those flaws that like, as humans, we're flawed people, and those flaws are the things that make us beautiful. Those flaws are the things that make us special, right? So one thing that I think it was Nerdist, the YouTuber Nerdist, brought up was we've looked at the shots from the trailer like forever of Kang's castle there at the end. I kept saying it looked like Limbo. And it's got all of these like gold lines, like fractures going all through it. And he said it reminds me of kintsugi, the Japanese art form where they take broken pottery and they put it back together using gold. So they highlight the imperfections in the piece, and those imperfections are what make it beautiful. And I was like, what a really cool metaphor for the show and for Loki, like himself.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get really excited about Loki, as you can well see. There's a lot of passion for Loki, but I think it's really cool. I think it's a really great lesson for all of us to take away.
I think it was a really cool way to look at the way the King's Castle looked, because it had those like gold cracks in it that made it seem, like you're saying, it was beautiful to look at, but also like ominous at the same time. But yeah, no, that's a really cool.
So like when like all of those pieces of you, all of those flaws and those imperfections, rather than throwing them away as trash or trying to cover them up, it's about like appreciating those flaws that make us beautiful. So Man. We can get into some stuff now. Okay.
We can get into some crazy stuff here, but this last question we're going to cover before we give our final ranking of this movie is, how big of an impact are these final moments in Loki? How is this going to affect the MCU going forward in Phase 4 and beyond?
I'll say this. This made Spider-Man seems so much smaller now.
Yeah.
Where I feel like that movie, if they're going to do the multiverse thing with all Toby and stuff, that's going to feel like a street level crime.
Yes.
But I wonder, we talked about it on our Discord. If you guys Google around, they did actually leak all the action figures coming out. We talked about the Funko Pops in the podcast, but we got a good look at what his suit looks like. Very Doctor Strange-esque. He's got the black and gold. He's got the kind of little arm wristband deals with the look like a spell coming out of it. So I'm assuming that's maybe something that will help him get through different universes. But when is this happening? It's like, is this going to be before Loki and stuff and Sylvie fucks shit up, or is it like after? Because Doctor Strange, I'm sure he's meditating and be like, there's 400,560 things that could happen, and this is the one we'll win at. And what is happening?
Did he go past the point that we beat Thanos in that projection? Looking forward in time. Did he just stop at the point that he
doesn't have
beat
the time stone anymore, so he can't do that?
Because I feel like this is pretty important. If this is the one where we survive Thanos, and then a little bit past that, a multiversal war starts.
Why didn't you tell us about that one, Strange? Is that what your shaky finger meant?
Here's the thing. No time stone. I mean, they're like Dippin' Dots at TVA. You can get
exactly.
You can get Infinity Stones anywhere. Maybe they give him another, or I'm sure he's developed something.
Like Dippin' Dots.
They're like Dippin' Dots.
I can picture now. It's like a little cup of Infinity Stones.
Yes. Like Dippin' Dots.
Here you go. I'd like a kitty size, please.
So, I'm assuming he knows something, but that makes me think, now that this like crack in time has happened, is that what triggers Doc Ock and everybody to come into town? Like, maybe this is happening everywhere. Maybe like we're getting different villains showing up everywhere. We're getting this and that showing up. All this because of what happened in Loki.
Yeah, I can really see Spider-Man setting up the Multiverse of Madness movie, and in a way of it being like what we just witnessed in Loki is going to happen during Spider-Man, like the time where it is in the timeline.
I think so too.
At the beginning, we'll probably have 30 minutes of like regular Spider-Man movie, but then like shit's going to go sideways at that point. And I think what that's going to indicate is that's when Sylvie stabs Kang and the universe just collapses on itself. And that is going to coincide. And I think the way they're going to explain some of these villains and stuff popping up in Spider-Man is at the same time that that's happening in this universe, in this other universe is when Doc Ock is sinking in the water, and that pulls him over into our universe because that's right when Sylvie stabs Kang. We're also going to see Electro from the Andrew Garfield series when he's, he gets blipped out of that. So I think, Britt, you made the comment that like it's tough to like think about time happening all at once, rather than
right,
a
because
linear.
our like human brains are not meant to see time that way. For us, it's really linear. But he who remains had said, I think he said in that final episode that like all of that time, it's happening all at once for him.
Yeah.
So even though we're pulling different villains from different times in our history, it's all happening at once. All of it just happens all at once, because for him there at the end of time just is happening all at the same time.
I just had an exciting thought.
Oh, I love this. Mario's brain. I keep seeing like light bulbs going off over here.
It's like a natural high, man. This is great. What if I want the what if this would be kind of exciting? What if like somehow okay, so Loki goes into like this other TVA, right? Gets transported to this other universe, right? What if they do it where the Spider-Man characters, they just get swapped into different universes? So maybe Tom Holland Spider-Man gets stuck in the Raimi New York, and then Toby gets stuck in the MCU New York.
Yeah.
And like, so and nobody can tell the difference. It's like, oh, it's just Spider-Man. You know, and like it becomes a like, it's like, oh, it's a Spider-Man.
We've all been assuming that all these people will get pulled
into ours.
Earth 1999.
But what if
Niner?
What if Tom's
what
going?
If they're all just
one?
Jumbled up?
Interesting.
That'd be fun because we kind of talked about it in Discord for a second when we were prepping for this show. Is the one big issue, the last time we saw Spider-Man on screen, we saw J. Jonah Jameson spilling the beans and saying it's Peter Parker, he's Spider-Man, and he gets outed by Mysterio. That's his last breath, is like, it's Peter Parker, he's a murderer. And so it's like that leaves a bit of an awkward situation.
Right. Yeah, I could totally see the first part of the movie being a direct like response to that scene. And then it's just like, it doesn't matter anymore because like universes are colliding and people are swapping.
Maybe it's like right before he has to like answer for what, the
and
whole
he has a lawyer.
Then he gets yanked out and into another.
Or maybe Toby covers for him when they find out it's like, when Toby's swinging around in New York and they're like, oh, it's Peter Parker. And they're like, how do they know that? Takes his mask off and like, wait a minute, that's not even Peter Parker. That's a different
50-year-old man.
Yeah. they're like, who is this guy? And like, oh, it must have been a hoax. It must have been like some bullshit. And that's how he gets out of it. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, that would be a fun thing. Kind of like, not, don't necessarily have them all together the whole movie. Just kind of be like they're in different. That's an exciting thought.
I think in general, though, the way that I kind of see this happening is this has happened in Loki. I think Spider-Man's movie is going to be the direct reaction to this happening and all these multiverses colliding. Doctor Strange is going to be in it.
Will be as well.
And then I think Doctor Strange is going to start to solve the problem or like understand what's going on. But I think it's going to be insanity in Spider-Man. Yeah. And I think Peter Parker and Doctor Strange are going to try to work to figure out what's happening and understand what is going on. So this week it has been confirmed that Tom Hiddleston is going to appear in Doctor Strange.
And Wanda.
And Wanda is going to be in Doctor Strange.
They're all going to be there.
This is going to be an insane party.
Speaking of Wanda, I think that last scene with Wanda at the end of her show, WandaVision, where she's like, and she's trying to find her kids, and then you hear her kids like yell out for her, like, yo, Mom, I'm over here. I think that was the exact time that Sylvie broke everything,
and she can hear her kids through a different reality.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's been sitting here like trying to find them. I'm assuming she's been like digging through multiple realities or something. She's a Nexus being, she can do that kind of crap. And she hasn't been able to make contact with them until that moment. And I'm wondering if it's because it's the exact moment that Sylvie broke all the stuff.
Whew. Man, look, this show, this is insane that we're able to just sit here and theorize this whole entire time that we've been talking. We've had a ton of freaking questions, and I feel like we have more freaking questions as we've talked about it.
I will have more and more and more questions the more I sit around and just think about this show.
But I think it's probably time to maybe go around the room here and give a final score.
I think
for not only this finale, but the entire
season,
the Loki series. Kind of point out the high points that we love about the show. So Mario,
Mario, you're
up first, man.
All right. This series was great. I had a great time. I loved like the look and feel of it. Like from that first episode of first time walking to the TVA, the oranges and yellows, the kind of like 70s feel almost felt like really, really welcoming. And it was great to see. Compared to all three shows, we already have 3 shows. Like,
I know.
I feel like just yesterday, WandaVision was starting up.
I know, it's crazy.
And you know, I loved WandaVision. I thought Falcon Winter Soldier was fantastic. Definitely a little different than that. But then Loki kind of just like we're gonna remember this for years.
Yes.
We're gonna remember, like, you remember when this all started? When I was a when I was a youngster. You know,
back when Phase 4 just started. I was just a wee 30-year-old.
Like my Iron Man was Robert Downey Jr. and now it's freaking Taylor Lautner. I don't know. But as a whole, I think the whole series was great. Like, you know, if you were to rank all the episodes, they're not all 10s. You know, you got your 8s, you got maybe your 6s here and there. But as a show altogether, as a season, I would definitely give it a 10. It was fantastic.
Whoa,
it was a great time.
It the perfect score.
I think it was a great time.
Oh man! All right, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna let you go last because this is your boy.
My baby.
So I'm gonna let you go last. I am gonna say this 100%, and I think Mario probably just confirmed this too. It's definitely the best Disney Plus show out there. But I am gonna say that this is probably one of the best. It's in the conversation at least as the best Marvel productions so far. Like as a whole,
not Phase 4, like
not
as
Phase
a whole.
4, as the entire Marvel universe that we've seen so far, starting with Iron Man to here. This is in conversation as being in at least the top 5 projects.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone in that. Like, there's bigger nerds and critics than us that are throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a great show from start to finish. This is our style of show. We love the styles that you get to theorize and really dig and find the Easter eggs and try to figure out who the big bad is at the end. Tom Hiddleston was perfect. All of the acting was perfect. Even some of the theories that we thought that we knew when they were revealed and we were right, it wasn't like, oh, that's kind of underwhelming because we knew that was going to happen. The way they executed confirming that these theories were in fact true. The main scene I'm thinking of is when it's all confirmed that the TVA agents are all variants, and you have B-15 and Sylvie in front of the shopping store in the rain, and B-15's crying. I'm like, that is executed perfectly. The acting is so good. The music was amazing. The score was so good. There were tiny little things in here that I think Britt's going to possibly touch on that make it to where I'm not going to give it a perfect score, but it's as close as you can get to it. I'm giving it a 9.5. Okay. 9.5.
Yeah. So I feel like, oh my God. I mean, like, I love the show for so many reasons. I think it's really incredible that Marvel chose to make such a gigantic impact to the Marvel universe in a show. Like, I think that's incredible. I personally, I love TV shows because I like to dedicate more time to it. I mean, instead of a 2-hour film, we got 6 hours here. 6 hours with Loki is never bad in my book. And we get a season 2. But in order to give something a perfect 10, I feel like I have to then be able to find no faults in it. And as like a hardcore Loki fan, there were faults for me. the biggest one being that almost from episode 1, they basically established Loki as a good guy. And I think that you really lost what makes Loki Loki.
Mhm.
I never knew in all the, the entire Marvel MCU until this point, I never knew where Loki was. I never knew why he was doing the things. Like I never knew what his intentions were up until the moment that he goes to stab Thanos. You're like, I have no idea, like if he's gonna be on the right side or not. That's why I love Loki. He keeps me always guessing. You never ever know what his intentions are, and I do feel like I understand why they did it, but I feel like you lost who Loki was by trying to make him too much of a good guy. I think that he could have been loyal to Sylvie. I feel like he could have had that growth without losing that quality about him. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah.
But everything else about the series, I love. Oh, I didn't love Renslayer. I will say
that's another good point. Yeah.
That was literally the only actor. And I don't even think it was her. I think it may have been the way that she was instructed to act in certain scenes. She was the only person that while I was watching, I thought I was watching an actor. Everybody else, it felt like you forget that they're even real people. And that's important to me. But everything else I loved. Mid-century design is literally my favorite thing in the entire world. And I was like, oh my God, we're getting like two of my favorite things. Loki.
And jet skis.
Not jet skis. I don't do jet skis. Sorry, Mobius. Loki, time travel, and mid-century design. So I would give it a 9.7.
A 9.7?
Can I do that? Or do I have to
so it's like
in halves?
So it's like you can't pick between a 10 and a 9.5 is what you're saying.
Yeah. So I went like in between there.
We'll allow a 9. We'll allow in quarters, maybe a 9.75. How about that?
Okay. 9.75.
There you
Do
go.
we allow that, Judge Lima?
I allow it.
Renslayer?
Yes.
I'll allow it. My good. After this, man, I think I need a cigarette. This was wild. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Friggin' Nerd Reviews Loki.
Guys, thanks for letting me nerd out about Loki.
This is great.
For like, I think it was like 2 hours.
No, we only went an hour and 8 minutes. I thought we were gonna go longer.
Okay. That's not bad.
Like we were
we
afraid.
Still have time. Okay, so let's get back to the universe.
I will say this. I don't know when this video is going to go up on our channel, but this is currently Thursday, the day after the finale debuted.
What?
No, it's
It was
crazy.
only yesterday.
Yeah. I am calling it by next weekend. We're going to have a Spider-Man trailer. They were waiting for Loki before they drop this trailer for the Spider-Man movie. In a week and a half from now, we are going to have the Spider-Man trailer for you guys to watch. Yes.
Man, and that is going to be, because I am a huge Spider-Man fan. That's my Loki, it's like I love Spidey to death.
I'm in
so
the same boat.
So I'm like, I am, I voiced my opinion before, if you guys check out the channel, I just did a video on superior foes of Spider-Man, and I really want James Gunn to make this, but he's kind of weird with Marvel nowadays, so I don't know if he would do it, but come on, think about it, James.
Think about
but it. I love Spider-Man, and I think there's some great potential if you guys do it right. And I'm very excited for, and as always, I'm always excited for the future of Marvel, and I think it's going to be bright. But that's it for us today, guys. Friggin' Nerd Reviews. We're going to try to do more of these when other cool movies come out. We're going to try to do as many as possible and hang out. I know we're kind of throw around the idea of maybe doing all the Spider-Man movies to hype up Spider-Man. So maybe
we just watched the first one.
We just watched
Toby's
first one last night.
So maybe we'll start reviewing those eventually, and then all the way up to Spider-Verse. Then we'll and then we'll get hyped up for the next movie.
Yes.
But ladies and gentlemen, with the Friggin' Nerds Media. I've been Mario Lima.
I'm Friggin' Nerd Mike.
Friggin' Nerd Britt.
And you guys have been awesome. And for all time.
Stay
For all time.
always.
Always.
Yes, baby.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.